Hi,
Hello.
we are here again today.
Today we wanted to chat about when you become a foster parent, making absolutely sure that this is something you want to do because it is a big deal.
I want to reiterate how important it is for you or anyone that you know that says, I think I want to become a foster parent, to make sure that it's something that they truly and genuinely want to do for the kids. Like, I want to be a foster parent because I just want to be able to be a home that kids can go to whenever they get removed from their current home. And I just want to be there for them, even if it's just for a little bit or if it's for a while. I just want to be there for them. Not go into it with, hey babe, I really want to do foster care so that we can adopt kids from foster care. But we really don't even think about it at all until it's like, we think about it, but we aren't we aren't caught up in the, are we going to adopt them? Like, they've been with us for 6 months already. Is this going to happen? Like, we know our place, and our place is that we're foster parents.
Well, if you are doing this in order to start your family with these children, there's nothing wrong with that. That's actually how we started foster care. We didn't have any children, and our now 8-year-old was our first child. But know that if you are doing this to start a family, that these kids are not yours. They're not yours, but they're also not your ideal bouncing baby boy you've harbored in your belly for 9 months and, been playing music to and things like that. They have trauma and they have other biological components that are not impossible to overcome, but you do have to address them. So some people bring kids into their home and have this ideal children they want them to be, like Christmas card, adorable children, and but they do things like throw temper tantrums for an hour. And if you're not prepared mentally for these kids to be just a little bit imperfect, you just might not react correctly to them. And I'm actually an example of that. I learned a little bit too late that when a kid who has had trauma is having a temper tantrum, they will never cry it out in their room. We had our first daughter, she would start throwing fits, which is not uncommon for a 2-year-old. I would say, okay, we need to just have some time by ourselves in our room. And I've had nephews and nieces and babysat before, and the kid will just fall asleep. She never did that. And I've since read that kids who have never been soothed by anyone don't really know how to self-soothe, which seems a little bit backwards. You think if nobody else ever soothed them, they'd figure it out, but they don't. They never had someone to pick them up and be like, it's okay. So they just scream forever. And like I said, I learned that the very hard way, and maybe this will prevent somebody else from doing that same thing to their child. If they're screaming and you need a minute because you're just, oh my God, so mad at that child, take your minute and then come back and fix it. And it takes about 3 seconds of love versus, a long time of screaming to soothe that child. And also it helps get a bond between you and that child. Like, the child now trusts you, and you can build a relationship. And when they do start trusting you, they'll stop that kind of, hours and hours of temper tantrums. They will be able to self-soothe, but you need to provide a stable and trusting environment, and that's sort of how you do that. Yeah. Just be open-minded to the possibilities that they're not exactly what you were thinking your family would be like. They're not, going to sit quietly at dinner the first time you have them. They're not going to know that you don't throw your toys across the room. They're not going to know that you don't eat food out of the trash. Just things that obviously you would teach your own children if you had them from birth. You're dealing with their trauma and their background and their family also. So you don't have to overpower them or forget that. You just have to also teach new things to them. And that's harder than biological children. They say that it's not you against the child, it's you and the child against their trauma, against their background. So, you and your kid have to find a way to work together to bring him or her past whatever they've been through. Which is as little as, it's not little, but being neglected from a parent in drug-related activities versus, as bad as, the murder of someone they love. We've seen that a couple times with our kids. So, you have to figure out a way to deal with all of that
you have to remember that it is not their job to come into your life and fit in this perfect life that you have. It's your job to rearrange everything that you have going on in your life to fit them and what they need. You just have to remember there's no kid that's perfect. I don't care, like I said, if it's biological or foster.
So basically, we just wanted to, if you're thinking about becoming a foster parent and you're on the fence about it, really make sure that you can handle what's coming at you. Because there is a way to do it wrong. I mean, if you're too harsh on the kids, and I would say that I did it wrong for probably the first several months of when we had our first kiddo. If I could go back, I would change it. It wasn't abusive, but I certainly could have done it better. And now that I know what I know now, I feel like I do it a little bit better most of the time, but I still have moments of where I fail. But if you can kind of forgive yourself and learn every single time you screw up, you can be a better foster parent. If you're just going to think that you know everything about kids and parenting, I mean, I would love for you to check your ego right now before you go take that pride class.
Also, really pay attention to any classes that you take or any tips that people are giving you about foster care. I think one of the biggest things or one of the biggest reasons that we probably failed in the beginning is because we both grew up in a two-parent household. Both of our parents are still married. They were all very strict in their own way, and we've done really well with ourselves in our life. And I'm not trying to brag in any way, but I know I'm proud of where I'm at with her, and I know a lot of it has to do with our upbringing. And we just, what's the word, like, project onto our kids how our parents were with us unintentionally. Like, sometimes we're super strict about things, and we probably could like take it back a little bit. And I don't think we realized that. That was probably our biggest failure in the beginning, was that this is how our parents did it with us. So we got to do it with, them. And our first child was a child from foster care, and I think that's when we learned, like, we can't do that. You can't just be tough on them. Like, they've already been through so much. Like, you have to come from a place of nothing but understanding, and then every step comes after that. You don't come from a place of rules and strict and creating more trauma for these children, because that doesn't help them in any way, and it doesn't benefit you or your family.
Yeah, it's really stressful to live in a house where you think everything has to be perfect. On the other side of that, you don't forgive your kids for everything just because they've been through trauma. So anyways, you have to toe that line where you don't make excuses for them because of their past, but you also, don't overly correct for every little bitty.
You can just, like, with things that you want them to learn, I know, like, if the kids are running in the house, whenever everything's chaotic and stressful, sometimes you're like screaming, don't run in the house, but, a better way to approach that would be, hey guys, running's for outside, not for inside. When we're outside, you can run around, you can play, but when we're inside, there's walls everywhere. You're going to hurt yourself, you're going to hurt someone else. Or if somebody's throwing a toy, like, no, don't throw that toy. Wait, toys are not for throwing, they're for playing with, or, I guess if it's a ball, then you're kind of screwed on that one, but, balls are for throwing outside, not inside. Like, we could knock something down and somebody could get hurt, and at the end of the day, we really want you guys to be safe. There's always ways to change how you say things. I think it just goes back to that, maybe it's not what you say, it's how you say it thing.
Yeah. The best way to correct your kids is to, predict what they're going to need, okay? They come home from school, they're acting crazy, they're hungry, give them a snack before they start doing anything else. It's 8 o'clock in the morning and they have a lot of jitters. Take them outside before it gets too hot and play at the park, and then maybe they can come home and play quietly. Anticipate what they need. Don't try to correct everything they're doing. I mean, you have to kind of think one ahead of them, which is hard sometimes, but, make sure they're getting enough exercise, make sure they're getting enough water, make sure they're getting enough snacks, and that'll prevent a lot of temper tantrums and misbehaving, just with those 3 simple things.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say that to play on that, there has been a few times where, one of our children, I'm just like, oh my God, like, she's at work and they're driving me nuts, and she'll call me on her lunch break and she'll say, hey, what's going on? And I've allowed myself to get so busy with my day that I'm not paying attention to what they need, and I'll tell her what's wrong, and she's like, honey, have you given them a snack? And I look at the time, I'm like, oh my gosh, no, I haven't. And I feel terrible, but you know, I get it, it happens sometimes, but if you plan your days around what the kids need, it's definitely a lot easier. And I'm very thankful that I have her to remind me for that. You just have to remember those things. Like, it really is about, when you bring kids into your life, it is about you shifting things in your life to meet their needs, because it's your job to take care of them.
It's not their job to love you, it's your job to love them. That's really the bottom line. So if you're gonna be a foster parent, or even any parent, what did my dad always say? Slow to anger, quick to forgive, always loving.
We have that on a frame back here that he wrote in a card for us whenever we had kids.
You can still have your cute Christmas cards, but then also have children that still need work in the background. I guarantee you, everybody that's in the Christmas cards are not always that perfect. So it's harder than it looks to be a parent on any level. So just remember that, and give yourself a break if you're not perfect.
Especially a foster parent, it's a little bit harder than most parents because we are under the microscope a lot. I mean, because these kids have come from homes where, you know, something went wrong, a parent did something that ended with them being neglectful or physical abuse or whatever it was. They came from a home where a parent or a guardian didn't do what they were supposed to take care of them. So foster parents have it a little bit harder. For me, I feel like it's a good thing. Like, I don't have any complaints about it. I feel like it makes me be a better parent. I have to go to classes for this, and there's stuff in there that I learned so much, and I'm just like, every time we take the same class every year, and it's called BIT, and it stands for Behavioral Intervention Training. And every single time we take this class, I've heard it, you know, the last 4 years, but I always learn something different in it. And as soon as I hear something, it makes me think of one of my kids at home and something that I'm doing wrong.
Yeah, I think if we weren't foster parents, I would look at classes like that and videos like this and be like, that's some hippie bullshit. But like, since I'm a foster parent, I'm a little bit more open to, it could be that emotional trauma and things like that. Because you have to consider that. If you think you're above it, you're wrong. Yeah. That's it.
As always, if you have any questions, please let us know. And we'll see you next time. Bye.